Uh, Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning on drug enforcement and the rule of law in Mexico and Colombia. As you mentioned in your introduction, as the State Department's Assistant Secretary for International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, I oversee foreign assistance that supports counter-narcotics, police training, and justice support programs around the world, including in the Western Hemisphere. Anyone looking at the news from south of our border knows that drug-related violence is spiraling out of control, within drug cartels, between drug cartels, and against drug cartels. Drug trafficking organizations have shown time and again that they have no decency or respect for the law or for human life, and the increasingly depraved acts of violence we are currently seeing in Mexico are emblematic of these cartels' historic disregard for anything but profit. I cannot overstate the impact this kind of violence and crime can have. The individual tragedies we hear about on a near daily basis, such as innocent lives lost in cartel crossfire, rip the fabric of families and communities. This undermines public security and weakens governing institutions. In Colombia and Mexico, however, we've seen great determination to address that downward slide. And this is perhaps one of the most, if not the most, important elements in fighting to restore the rule of law. In Colombia, former President Pastrana recognized the need to intensify Colombia's efforts to stop the cartels. He provided the political commitment necessary to get Plan Colombia off the ground in close coordination with and with assistance from the United States. His successor, President Uribe, has expanded this effort through democratic security and national consolidation policies that seek to address insecurity, narcotics trafficking, and a lack of economic opportunities. We've also been fortunate in Mexico to launch the Merida initiative. We have seen in a relatively short period of time a change in the attitudes of the Mexican body politic that reflect an understanding that this issue must be faced collectively. One of the natural outgrowths of leadership that we saw in Colombia was ownership. The Colombians were partners during the design of Plan Colombia and have remained so during its implementation. Mexicans are equally engaged in leading Merida's planning and implementation process, and bilateral meetings are held on a monthly basis to discuss progress on each of the 46 Merida projects, which are extensively negotiated each year. Next week in Mexico City, we plan formally to open a joint center to administer Merida, a place where Mexicans and Americans work side by side to advance this comprehensive law enforcement reform program. In both Colombia and Mexico, the United States government has played a supporting role, seeking to complement strategies rather than developing ones to compete with the governments there. As security has begun to be established in Colombia, for example, it became possible to address other societal factors contributing to narco-trafficking and lawlessness. That progression allowed the Colombian government to expand social services to former conflict regions and establish stronger institutions. The same approach is at the heart of our effort in Mexico. Our experience in Colombia emphasized the importance of adapting to the changing environment, to recognize and to embrace opportunities when they present themselves. Counter-narcotics programs must constantly evolve from the point where they start, to confront and counter the threat, which also adapts constantly. In Colombia, for example, criminal gangs have emerged to fill a void in the drug trafficking network left by the demobilization of paramilitary organizations and the weakening of the FARC. Tackling these new criminal organizations requires adjustments in how we investigate and prosecute their criminal behavior while simultaneously maintaining pressure against the FARC. In Mexico, we were approached almost 2 years ago to support a new type of investigator cadre specially formed to confront new narcotics threats and associated crimes. I can recall sitting in a room with my Justice Department and other interagency colleagues when we were asked about this, to produce training materials, to produce officials and trainers within about 90 days for 5,000 new Mexican investigators. And we looked at each other and we said, this is impossible and we have to do it. And we did. We were able to recruit U.S. federal, state, and local law enforcement trainers to address this need in an extremely short amount of time. These examples represent mutually beneficial opportunities. In both cases, we adjusted our programmatic plans to join specific Colombian and Mexican goals in order to advance our shared one. For us, these are win-win situations that we need continuously to find and act upon as the environment and our programs, such as Plan Colombia and the Merida Initiative, continue to evolve. Another important lesson learned in Colombia that we are applying in Mexico is recognition that there's no single silver bullet to the problems created. We must be flexible and maintain a long-term vision focused on working with our partners to strengthen their own institutions. Colombia's judicial transformation to the accusatorial system took 4 years. Mexico's similar path is likely to take even longer. We must remain mindful that the payoff for our collective investment will only be realized if we take a long view. The lessons we learned from our experiences in Colombia, the need for public support, the need to establish security that creates space for a comprehensive, coordinated government effort, the need to demonstrate adaptability, to take a long-term view in creating and entrenching solutions. All of these are reflected in our efforts in Mexico. We've seen significant positive change in Colombia. Much of that change is attributable to the bilateral plan that we worked on together for 10 years. We've also witnessed Colombia's ascendancy to become a regional leader in counter-narcotics as well as police training. Colombia's unique experiences have made it the logical choice to provide advisors and trainers. In fact, Colombia has already trained approximately 5,800 Mexican law enforcement and court officers on a variety of operational and judicial topics. We applaud this kind of regional collaboration. Mexico's recent high-profile seizures and arrests are clear signs that their effort is moving in a positive direction. Mexico's determination, however, is matched by the drug trafficking organization's determination to maintain their territorial control and profits. We'll continue in our commitment to the fight against these cartels and to support our partners in their efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to seeking to address your questions.